guys? Welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face, radio, and a voice for print. Well, there's some new studies, new surveys that are out, and apparently men are continuing to walk away from not just dating women, because that would be inaccurate. Men are walking away from even sleeping with them anymore. There's a lot more guys that are actually just checking out of the dating, and the bedroom. And when we talked about this before, they pretty much, they talked about, 63% of men aren't dating and 35% of women. And then when we say, it must be because all the women are dating the same men, turns out, at least in the Institute for Family Studies, they did a study, and they have a chart here that I'll talk about. This just came out a couple days ago. They have a new chart, and they said, we actually asked men how many partners they're having, and the average of men having more partners than they have 10, 12 years ago hasn't changed. So it seems like guys are actually just walking away, and the younger women are actually now, they're probably dating older guys or being with older guys, because the young men, at least, are kind of saying, we've had enough. Before we get too far into this, today's sponsor is me. If you would, either jump over, and if you want to buy me a beer and keep my work independent, you can give once, or you can click on subscribe and come on over and become a member over at betterbachelor.locals.com. We got a great community of guys. We do movie nights. We watch UFC fights. I just stream them. It's not like we watch this at the same time kind of thing, and you got to rent the movie, or we try to sync it up. Nope, I stream them. You watch them. That's how it is. So you get UFC fights, even the pay-per-views. You get football. You get movie nights with a bunch of like-minded men. So come on over, give me some support. Hang out with some other guys that are a lot like you. I think you'll enjoy it. One of the things that makes this so hard to find and talk about men's issues and men dating and everything else is either A, they blame men. The stories are very negative, or something that is kind of ironic. The stories are written by women, which, how are you going to try to pretend that you're talking about men's issues when you're a woman and don't know anything about them? I mean, the most you could do is look at statistics, but that's not the actual opinion of a man that's maybe having some of this problem. But again, guys are not really in media much anymore because of patriarchy or whatever. I'm not going to read down through these, but here's my point. From February of 2017, this was written by Kristen Weir. From the Good Men Project, Why Are Men Walking Away? This is from January 21st, 8 days ago, written by a Maria Min. And what's ironic in these stories is if we scroll down here to the bottom, and she says, the trend of men walking away, it's complex. It's influenced by some society and emotions and personal factors. How do we address this? And what's the first thing she says? Promoting open dialogues where masculinity can be inclusive and they can share perspectives, and teaching men that vulnerability is a strength, and redefining no, none of that works. That's a woman's way of fixing things. That's not how men fix things. This is how a woman would like to fix a man. That's not how you actually fix a man. And this for Society for Peace, this came out just a month or two ago. Men checking out of society, a growing trend. This was written by an AI bot. The photos are AI, because you can tell, because every father and kid basically looks the same. The photos are AI. And if you know anything about AI, all you have to do is read the summary. Conclusion: men checking out of society is a complex issue with multifaceted roots. Addressing this trend requires, it's AI. Well, here's the actual study. And that's why I'm going to go right to the numbers here. But I do want to vent a little bit. And that's why it's so hard for a lot of times me or other content creators that are trying to find some numbers to share with you guys, why it's almost impossible. Because anything that puts a woman in a negative light, or anything that might promote real masculinity and strong men and stoic men, they won't print it. They won't publish it anymore. And that's from basically all countries. This portion here is basically a discussion about men that have been with a woman, but haven't been with one in the last year. For men, back in 2013 to 2015, so we'll just keep saying a decade ago, it was 9%. Now it's 24%. For women, it's only up 5%. So a lot of these men are just kind of checking out. So in this figure, they interviewed men aged 22 to 34. Then a decade ago, the number of guys that hadn't been with a woman at all in the last year was 10%. Now it's 20%. So the amount of men that haven't been with a woman in the last year has doubled up to 20%. But if you look at this graph, I don't know if I can zoom it up all the way here. Let me just open the image in a new tab. If we look at this here, you can see that the two trend lines are just about the same. One partner in the last year, so 0 partners is 10% to 20%. So guys, a lot less partners. But when you go up to 1 partner, it's about 60 to 65 to 70, just about the same. And it falls off and tapers off at the same pace. You can see that it's only a very, very small number of men, probably 1 to 2%, that are having multiple partners in a year. So this hasn't changed. And this kind of throws a monkey wrench in what we've always said, which is it's the same, chads, the same guys that are very popular with the women. There are more women sleeping with them. Now, if this was where they interviewed the women, I'd have a feeling the women would be lying. But most guys are not too ashamed or too shy to actually say the number of people they've been with, unless it's very low, and then usually they add more so they can seem like they're a bit of a player. So I don't see in any way, especially looking at this particular graph, why guys would be lying. So if the number of men being intimate with a woman is basically doubled or halved, I guess you could say, where twice as many men aren't being with women, and the number of partners they're having hasn't really changed, the only conclusion you can come to is just men are opting out in this age range. 22 to 34-year-old men are opting out. Now, the women that are in this age range, because again, they're interviewing up to 34, what are the odds a 22-year-old woman is with a 35-year-old guy that would not be in this age range? What are the odds a 31-year-old woman is with a 40-year-old guy? That's where I think the numbers are different, and why the women's numbers are not nearly as much. So young men are kind of getting the point where they're just not having nearly as many partners anymore. And I think the big reason for that is the quality of woman, I think, is what it really boils down to. Young men today, and the cartoon that I showed in the beginning of this, that's a Family Guy clip. I'm the one that actually put the text down below that. I edited it and put the text in down below that because I think that's how a lot of young guys are feeling today. Is young men are tired of the promiscuous women. A young man that hasn't had a partner in the last year or has only had maybe a couple partners in his life, and now he finds his options of having a woman, and this woman has either a very high body count or a very strange body count, let's say, where she's done some pretty crazy things with men that are other than him. And he just says, something, I don't feel like I'm either qualified, like I don't have the experience to make her happy, or I'm not interested, or somebody very eloquently put it in one of the articles I'm going to read. Imagine having a restaurant with only one dish and no dishwasher. If you think about that, yeah, it kind of feels like you're getting everybody else's leftovers, and it's pretty gross. And I think that's a very nice way of eloquently putting it, much more than the way I usually do it. And so until this changes, I think the vast majority of young men especially are the ones that are going to be tapping out of this, just tapping out of the system. And the guys that are maybe in their 30s, upper 30s to 40s, maybe those guys are willing to take a few more risks. Maybe they are in that range where they want to have a family and they decide to go out and partner up with some of these women. But from everything I can tell, a large portion of those men are out of the dating group or out of the dating game as well. I just don't think they have as much interest. I know certainly most of you that watch this content just don't have that kind of interest in women anymore. And what I think is going to change it is changing the women. Obviously, we talk about that all the time. I have this article here, and it seems that Turkey is actually getting it right. Only Fools model arrested in Turkey after vowing to sleep with 100 men in one day. Now, Turkey obviously has a much different culture than we do. And, a lot of us jokingly say, hey, maybe the Muslims have it right with how they strong arm their women and put them in control. And this is an example of this. Only Fools model was arrested in Turkey for announcing her plans to set a record for sleeping with more than 100 men in 24 hours. She said, my goal is to break a Turkish record and then the world record meaning she wanted to do 100 guys in 24 hours to break the turkey record. And then she too wanted to do more than 1,000 guys in 24 hours to try to break the world record that was just broken a few weeks ago by the other women that are doing this stuff. She posted to her 231,000 fans, which was quickly discovered by the Istanbul Public Security Branch Directorate's Mortality Bureau, the outlet reported. Officers called her plans obscene and damaging to national morale. Oh, if we could only do that to Only Fools here. This is damaging the morale of the country. I would actually rather have Only Fools banned instead of TikTok. I know that sounds crazy. They both should be. But if I had my choice, it'd be Only Fools out of the two of them. Police nabbed her and her 25-year-old Iranian husband. He's been released because he didn't do anything wrong. And here she is being frog marched down to a police vehicle. And she said she had plans to break the 1,000-person record. You know, we're going to have to find a way to clean up society. I think before we get young men back into the dating arena, until we get men back into dating to where they want to sleep with some of these women, we need to clean the women up considerably. And I know I'm not the only one that feels like that. I know a lot of you are as well. And obviously the young men that are out there today, they feel the same way.